Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today I'm going to teach you how to create old painted grungy text on a wall. Now, a couple of assumptions before we begin. The first being I am using Photoshop CC 2015. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, then some of the effects may not work as expected. Also, I am using Windows. If you are using a Mac, then when I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit your Option key. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is create a brand new document. So let's hit Control N on our keyboard and bring up the new dialog box. And we're going to name this, let's say, Old Grunge Text. Let's name it that. Why not? The document is going to be 3840 pixels wide by 2160 pixels high. Resolution is 150 pixels per inch. Color is going to be RGB color 8-bit. Background contents don't matter. They can be whatever you'd like, white, black, whatever. Doesn't matter. Color profile is going to be Adobe RGB 1998, square pixels, and let's hit OK, and we now have our brand new document. The next thing that we need to do is make sure that our foreground and background color are the default black and white. So let's hit D on our keyboard to make the foreground and background black and white. You can also click on this little black and white icon up here next to the foreground and background, which will bring up the default colors for foreground and background. Then we're going to select our text tool by hitting T on our keyboard or by selecting the text tool here on the toolbar. And what I'm using is a font called Fridays. Now I have a link to Fridays in the description below, so you can download that and use that, or you can use whatever font you wish that you think looks good with this effect. Now I'm using this at 175 points. My smoothing is going to be sharp, and I'm centering the text. The color doesn't matter. We're going to be changing it, but I've got black because we have a white background here. So I'm going to click and I'm going to write down my words, which is going to be Pixel Magic, as always. Then we're going to hit the little check mark here to accept that. Then we're going to use our Move tool by hitting V on our keyboard or by clicking on the Move tool up here. We're going to select our text and then move it to the center, and it should snap into the center like so. Let go, and we now have our text. Now most of this effect is going to be done with layer style, so it will remain editable, but the actual grunginess of it will be done using a flattened version of our text with all the effects, and then it will be slowly removed so that it will look as if it has been slowly weathered away by wind and rain and the elements, and has now become spotted, grungy, disgusting looking paint, which actually looks very good instead of disgusting. I don't know why I used that word. So here we are on our text layer, and we're going to give it a layer effect. So the first one that we're going to do is we are going to do a stroke. Now we're going to have two strokes, so once you bring up your stroke, you're going to want to hit the plus button to bring up a second stroke underneath it, and we want to work with the top stroke first. Now that is going to use the following parameters. It's going to be size of 8, position center, blend mode normal, opacity is going to be 100%, overprint is going to be unchecked, fill type is going to be color, and the color that we are using is going to be 49050E. We're going to hit OK there, and then we're going to go to our second stroke, and we're going to make the size 16, outside position, blend mode normal, opacity 100%, overprint 0, unchecked, fill type is color, and the color that we are using is AF9350. Hit OK, and now we have our two strokes, which as you can see gives us a yellowish goldy outline and a reddish inside line. Now the reason that we're doing this, specifically the goldy color on the outside, is because the background that I'm going to be using for this text is going to be on a mostly goldish, greenish, yellowish background color. So you don't see that yet because I haven't put the background on so that you would be able to see all of the effects that we're putting on here. But after we've done all the effects, I'll show you the background by placing it in, and also in the description below, I have a link to this background that I created earlier, and you're free to download it and use it in all of your artwork. So after the 2 strokes, we want to then give this an inner glow. So we're going to click on inner glow, and the inner glow that we are using is going to be blend mode of normal, opacity 100, noise of 0. The color that we are using is going to be 8F 3A 3A. The technique is precise, the source is edge, the choke is going to be 100%, and the size is going to be 18. Contour is linear, anti-alias is unchecked, range is 100, jitter is 0. Then we're going to give this a color overlay. Remember when I said that black did not matter? That's because we're going to give it its own color here in the style. So color overlay, we're going to give it this kind of burgundy red. So blend mode of normal. And the color that we are using is going to be 5B 0D 0D. And that makes this nice reddish color. Opacity is going to be 100%, so it overrides any color that we had on before. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to give this a drop shadow. Now on a white background, you're not going to see the drop shadow because the drop shadow will be white. But it will show up once we give our image a background that is not white. So the blend mode is going to be normal. The color is going to be pure white, which is all Fs. Opacity of 75% to give it a little bit of transparency. Angle is going to be 135 degrees. Use global light is unchecked. Distance of 27, spread of 100, size of 13. The contour is going to be linear, anti-alias is unchecked, and the noise is 0. Layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. We can then hit OK, and we have the basics of our paint. Now it doesn't look like much at the moment, but once you put it on a background, it will look very different. Now there is one thing that I do want to do here. Going back to my text tool, you can see that I have little space here, too much space here, little space here, too much space seeming there. So we're going to clean that up by clicking in between the letters with our text tool, and then holding down the Alt key on our keyboard, and then using the left and right arrow keys to move our text slightly in closer and further apart from each other. So we're going to make everything look a little bit better by doing it in this manner. So we will then move this like this. Let's move the P in. That looks pretty good, except that's a little bit too close still. This C needs to be brought in. Nope, it was fine where it was. So there we go. We'll hit check mark, and we now have Pixel Magic looking much better than it did before to me. So now we can click on the arrow here on the effects, and we're done with the Pixel Magic text here. Now before we move any further, we want to go back to our background, and we want to bring in the image that I created that you may have downloaded earlier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find it on our computer, and then we're going to click on it and drag it to our image, and then hold down the shift while we do that, which will constrain it to dropping only in the center of the document. Let go, and it will fill our document. If it doesn't fill it, you can see that it's got the handlebars that you can make things bigger and smaller, so you can always make it smaller and bigger to fill the screen, should you so wish. Hit enter when it is the size that you like, and as you can see now, the text looks a lot better since the gold is no longer standing out very much. All it really does is hide where the white drop shadow would have touched our text, so it looks like the drop shadow is separated from our text. So if you're not using this particular background, then on the stroke layer that we use, the second stroke, which we use gold because that kind of matched this background, you want to use the color of whatever background you've got in your background. So if you have a blue background, you want to use a blue color to hide the white drop shadow. So that's why we have that there. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the Pixel Magic or your text layer. So you're going to hit Control J to duplicate it. Then we're going to right click on that duplicate layer. We are going to rasterize the layer style, which will rasterize the whole layer and turn it from editable text to just an image of the text. We are then going to rename this as Grunge so that we know what we're working with. And then we're going to change its layer mode to Pin Light. Pin Light will then change its look very much. once we also change our Pixel Magic or our text layer, we are going to change our text layer to dissolve, and we're going to change its opacity to 20%. Okay, and that will give us this look. Now the thing to keep an eye on here is the grunge layer is actually the full layer of text. It's just using pin light, so it looks a lot lighter than it normally would, because pin light affects the text, the layer that it's on, based on what is underneath. And since underneath it is lighter colors, it looks a lot lighter than it normally does. And the text layer now looks like flecked off, very old paint. It doesn't look like it's really there anymore. Now that forms the basis of our paint, where the grunge layer is the top part of the paint before it started to flake away. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our eyes and our artistic talent now to use a brush tool. Hit B on your keyboard to bring up the brush tool, and then we're going to go to our brush presets, and we are going to bring up the faux finish brushes. So you can click on the little 4 lines here to bring up your I forget what it's called now. I've lost my mind. I'm terribly sorry about that. But you can bring up this list of all your options, and the one that you want is faux finish brushes. Click on that. This replace current brushes with the brushes from faux finish brushes pops up. You can hit OK, and it will replace your brushes with these faux finish brushes. Now you can use just about any of these that look like they're kind of messed up brushes, like sponges. Like this is a sponge. Sea Sponge 2, and this over here is a rolled rag, and this one up here is plastic wrap. There's a whole bunch of different ones you can use, whichever ones that you like. I happen to like starting with the plastic wrap, but this one over here is also really good, so we can use that for now. But you can use whatever you'd like. Now, on the grunge layer is where we're going to be using this brush, but we're not going to use it on the grunge layer itself. What we're going to do is we're going to give that grunge layer a layer mask, so click on Add Layer Mask, and we're going to work only on the layer mask, not on the layer itself. Make sure that we have black as our foreground, which should not have changed, and then change the brush size of our brush by hitting the bracket keys on the keyboard. So the rightmost bracket key makes it larger, the leftmost one makes it smaller, and then once you have a good size like this, you can click and you will then start destroying or aging your text. Now this particular brush is a little bit too light for the look that I'm going for here, so I'm going to go to brush presets, and I think I'm going to go back to my good friend right here, which is plastic wrap. Now plastic wrap, I need to make it fairly large to be useful, somewhere around here, and then just click on a corner, click next on another corner, and you can see it's starting to really fade away and deteriorate the text and the paint so that it looks very faded very quickly, which is what we like in our grungy faded text. See, that looks like it is old paint that has been on a wall out in the elements for a very long time. We can also add some more to this by going back to our brush tool and then making it smaller, and then we can just get rid of some more pieces to make it look a little bit more grungy and disgusting, which gives it kind of a nice look, not disgusting look, but it looks as if it has been on the wall a very long time and is missing pieces of itself, and it's been rained on and snowed on and just destroyed, really. So that to me looks pretty good. Let's go back to full size. Let's go back out to here. So there is your grungy old faded paint text, and it's very easy to make this. See, you can turn that off, edit the text, then duplicate it again and turn it into just a rasterized version of itself and then fade away what you don't want. And you can do this over and over again, and it will always look pretty cool. So that is Old Grunge Painted Text. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I'll be doing new tutorials every Tuesday. And once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.